Being officially over 100 chapters into Chainsaw Man now, it looks like things are starting to pick back up with Chapter 101. There wasn't much to use in Chapter 100 to predict what would come next, it just allowed for Asa and Yuko to become closer. A chapter specifically for building their relationship. A relationship that is then questioned in 101. Before we dive in, what do you think is going to happen in Chapter 102? A. Denji comes back to save them. B. Hirofumi saves them. Or C. Asa uses Yuko as a weapon to save herself. Let me know which one in the comments. Quick heads up though. Chapter 102 will not be releasing next week as Chainsaw Man is going on a break. It will be releasing on August 17th instead. Chapter 101, titled After School Devil Hunter, starts with Asa thanking Yuko for the shoes, telling her that she can have them back because they're too small. Yuko invites Asa to go into town to look for devils, which absolutely sounds like a bad idea. That may have just been the perspective we were given though. Anytime we saw a devil in part 1, it was something that the public safety devil hunters went to handle. The quote-unquote professional devil hunters. There were mentions of lesser devil hunters who would take care of less dangerous devils. We never got to see those though. Is this finally diving into what it was like outside of public safety? Or is it reflecting on how much the world has changed and how the fear of devils isn't as great anymore that high school clubs can go hunt them? Yuko mentions that they won't have to worry about the kids from Asa's class, so Asa agrees and they hit the town. We get mentioned that Hirofumi skipped school that day, giving us a reason as to why he isn't with them this chapter. And then Asa and Yuko begin to talk about why they decided to join the Devil Hunter Club. We find out that while Yuko would like to join for the money, she also mentions that just like Asa, her parents were killed by devils. This does make me wonder though, and this could just be a cultural difference, but what we can tell from Chainsaw Man, there seems to be a lot of self-sustaining children. High school students who live on their own, providing for themselves, with no focus on if they have a job or anything. Do you think the government in Chainsaw Man pays out to kids who have been orphaned by devil attacks? Back on topic though. We get a fourth wall break with Yuko relating them to manga main characters, which I am still completely under the assumption that Asa is the protagonist for Chainsaw Man Part 2, until proven otherwise. So, this makes sense. Yuko gets up to go use the bathroom. Asa lets out a smile, seeming contempt with her life at this point. And then the War Devil tells her that they should kill Yuko. That they should turn her into a powerful weapon to kill devils. Also giving us more information in regards to her powers. The guiltier that Asa feels about creating a weapon, the more powerful that weapon will become. Asa, of course, turns it down, telling the War Devil that it's always jumping to violence. Asa tries to change the subject by mentioning that the War Devil always calls her girl, and that she has a name. The War Devil basically retorting with, "No, you." Asa mentioning that War Devil is just weird and awkward, which I agree with. Every time I've made a video and had to mention it, I kind of stumble saying War Devil. It is really kind of awkward to roll off the tongue. So the War Devil gives Asa an actual name to call it, Yoru. I find this an interesting choice of name, as Yoru means night or evening, obviously a euphemism for dark, as Yoru is essentially the dark side of Asa, or the night to her day. I will say though, translating Yoru made me think to translate Asa, and Asa apparently translates to shit, so you know. But it's also a gender-neutral name of Hebrew origin that means doctor or healer. So we'll see where it goes with that. That also made me look up Yuko, which can mean gentleness or child, which I can see fitting her character so far. She's very childlike in nature. We then get some thought bubbles with Asa mentioning that she doesn't care for the goal to kill Chainsaw Man or to turn Yuko into a weapon. She's just having a good time. Then there's a guy that they pass on the street asking if people know the leading cause for death of Japanese people. It's like preaching to them as they walk by, and there's a crowd standing around him, stating that 7 out of 20 people will be killed by devils, over a scene of Asa and Yuko in front of a new bat devil flinging 3 people through the air and grabbing a 4th. The fact the 7 out of 20 people thing was placed over this, I think alludes to certain evidence. So we see 4 people being flung. Then there's Asa and Yuko. We're missing one person, right? Well, their squad is currently incomplete, which would make 7. Is this an early sign that Asa, Yuko, and Hirofumi are going to be killed by devils in part 2? Asa would most likely be by Denji. Yuko would most likely be by Yoru, but how is Hirofumi going to die? I do want to point out that visually this doesn't look to be the same Bat Devil that kidnapped Power's cat. Of course, that Bat Devil was killed, so this was most likely a reincarnation of that devil, which would pinpoint why it looks different. Yoru states that she has some bad news for Asa. First, in their current state, they can't beat the Bat Devil, which brings up a certain question. If they find Denji, how are they supposed to beat him if they can't even beat the Bat Devil? The same devil that Denji defeated way earlier in his devil hunting career, way before he defeated Makima. Yoru must be aware of this and most likely has other plans for Denji. And second, that she just learned she can't take over Asa's body when she's stricken with fear. But is it just fear, or is it going to turn into basically any heightened emotional state? Could be important information for the future. Yoru tells Asa to slowly back away, but Asa, terrified, turns around and bolts with the Bat Devil hot on her trail, and the chapter ends. In comparison to the last chapter, this one had so much more in it, and for the most part, it was a slow chapter as well up until the end. I think it was just a lot more crucial information over the subtle character and relationship building of chapter 100. The ending probably also helps a lot because we just know some shit is going to go down next chapter. That's really it for chapter 101 though. I absolutely loved it for what it was. How did you feel about it? What do you think is going to happen next? Otherwise, that's all for this one. As a quick heads up, due to the fact that there won't be a chapter next week, I am working on a side project that doesn't necessarily revolve around Chainsaw Man, just to let you know. It is a Yu Yu Hakusho retrospective. In my free time, I am currently watching through it. It's been an interesting story so far. It's taken a lot of research because the first 10 minutes is basically about Togashi's history as well as what it took to create the manga and the anime, and then after that, which is the part I haven't finished yet because I haven't finished rewatching Yu Yu Hakusho, it's going to be about the actual story. So it's going to be in depth. I'm hoping to get that out next week in place of a Chainsaw Man video since, you know, the delay, the break, whatever you want to call it. But I am really excited for this one. So please tune in. But yeah, otherwise, see ya.